Hello, Chipari here. Today we're going to be talking about Loki Season 2, which just premiered on October 5th, 2023. And we're talking about more of the implications of the season as a whole and the recently premiered Episode 1 of Season 2 and what the implications are for the entirety of the MCU going forward. As we are introduced to Ke Huy Quan, his character of Ouroboros in Season 2, Episode 1, he introduced us to the temporal loom, which is a critical factor in kind of understanding how the multiverse works in the MCU and what will happen to it going forward. Now, the temporal loom itself is a vault that opens up to a visual representation or physical representation of what the multiverse looks like, which is this big coaxial type electrical cable that has now kind of blown out with this kind of cut in the cord that now represents where the multiverse has gone out of control and kind of this exponential increases of convergences between multiverses and potentially the end of reality as we know it in the MCU. So He Who Remains was one of the Kang variants that eventually stopped a multiversal war and kind of created the sacred timeline, which is all the multiverses acting in parallel, kind of harmoniously without converging on one another so that reality stays intact. And the creation of the TVA was used to kind of enforce and kind of create control to the sacred timeline so it doesn't cause this type of ripple effect where the multiverses go out of control, converging with one another and kind of ending reality for the MCU. So He Who Remains, in terms of how he kind of took over the multiverse, was he created this fake illusion of these authority figures that acted as kind of the supervising figures of the TVA. So in opening up Season 2 of Loki, it's clear from Loki's point of view that control is required to manage the multiverse. Now, does that control mechanism represent what He Who Remains did in terms of creating this illusion of authority figures and using the aspect of pruning to stop anomalies from kind of impacting these multiverses? Or is it something else? And that's really where we come into play of the upcoming Avengers films, Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Now, in the premiere episode of Loki Season 2, of course, the temporal loom, this vault, had a bit of an Easter egg with respect to the X-Men. The actual vault door looks like the entryway to the room with Cerebro, which is famously known from X-Men as Professor Xavier's way of kind of accessing the minds of all humans and mutants in the world. So very similarly, this is an Easter egg to kind of foreshadow the introduction of the X-Men. The purpose of going forward in the MCU looks to be like it's going to be simplifying things going forward. Of course, you have multiple attempts over the past 25 plus years to kind of craft a MCU, which each one, like 20th Century Fox and Sony, have been successful or not successful at times. But the purpose here in going forward is to simplify it and kind of modify it so that we can reintroduce new heroes or reintroduce older heroes with new actors. So it all starts with Deadpool 3. In Deadpool 3, the intent here is to kind of pluck a certain number of X-Men from the previous 20th Century Fox universe and then drop them into the MCU. That specifically being, of course, Deadpool. And then you have Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Logan, also jumping into the main MCU, along with some of the other additional X-Men that we've come to know and love from the 20th Century Fox universe. Now, these X-Men, of course, will be joining a battle with the Avengers that have now assembled in the MCU to battle against the Kang Dynasty. And this will all culminate in what occurs in Secret Wars, which is kind of a soft reboot of everything that we've known for Marvel, and of course in this huge, vast thread of Marvel movies. So in respect, Secret Wars will represent the end of everything that we knew for Marvel, not just MCU, but for Marvel, and then also kind of crafting a new, more simplified universe. So it'll have characters from Sony's Marvel films, from 20th Century Fox's Marvel films, and then various attempts to create franchises across the way, including Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. So you'll have Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man interacting with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, who will be interacting with, of course, Tom Holland's Spider-Man and also Chris Hemsworth's Thor, all converging together to battle and push back against Kang's forces. Now, with this movie event of Secret Wars, most likely this will be a way to kind of fade away from some of the legacy characters in the MCU, along with kind of putting a closure on all those different universes like Wolverine, or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and also Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. This is a move away from everything that we knew for all these Marvel films, all this Marvel history, to craft a new start. Now, again, this is not going to be a complete hard reboot. This will be a soft reboot because you'll have plenty of MCU films starting just before. That means that you'll have Blade, you'll have Fantastic Four, and some other recent movie entries that are the start of a new franchise that'll continue into this new rebooted universe. So, assumingly, the end of Secret Wars will be a point of which the heroes win, but at immense cost, with a simplification of the sacred timeline, and also many heroes kind of either being obliterated from the timeline, being killed in the battle, and then having to start up a new thread as crafted by the remaining survivors. So the Avengers themselves will have to assemble shortly after Loki Season 2. And those Avengers, besides the names like Spider-Man and Thor and Hulk and all the, of course, most famous characters, you also have characters that have been introduced and that will band together themselves. So you've got kind of like a young Avengers made up of Kate Bishop, Cassidy Lang, and Miss Marvel all gathering up. And then you also have Talos' daughter, Gaia, who has now kind of consumed the superpowers of everybody in the MCU, and she's setting up her own team in the UK. So with the Avengers losing to the Council of Kangs, they will, of course, need the assistance of the TVA, kind of plucking heroes from different universes. So there has to be a spark to kind of assemble all the Kangs together to go against the entire multiverse. And it remains to be seen that Victor Timely, who will play an integral part in this season of Loki Season 2, is a key part in kind of assembling those Kangs all together, or if there's something that he does that kind of spurs up the rest of the Council of Kangs. So that does it for me, guys. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the Sacred Timeline.